Under this regulation, first-time home buyers will be exempted from paying a deposit, while mortgage holders who have paid off their loans are treated as first-time buyers too. The regulation will attempt to tighten access of capital to finance the buying of residential property on multiple loans.
It, however, applies to persons who already own a mortgage with a bank and they would want to acquire a second property, for example. And they are then expected to pay 20% of the purchase price of the loan that will be extended to them by the commercial bank, and then the 80% will then be paid for by the commercial bank. That's when, if you are buying a second property and you already own or you're already servicing a one mortgage loan. And these percentages are increasing. For example, if you want to then acquire a third home, you then need to pay 30%, and then the bank will pay 70%. For a fourth home, 40%, and then the bank will advance you a loan of 60%. For a fifth loan, 50%, a sixth, seventh, and so forth.
Deputy Director of Communications at the Bank of Namibia, Kadembire Mburuka, also added that the purpose of this new rule is to lower the excessive risk the banking industry is exposed to, such as speculative purposes, behavior in the housing market.
Bank of Namibia is worried about mortgage loans because commercial banks have more than half of all loans and advances that are extended by commercial banks. They are in the form of mortgage loans. So they could cause some instability if the mortgage holders are unable to finance them. So it's by way of trying to mitigate that risk to the commercial banks. The second reason is that the Bank of Namibia is also worried about rising property prices or housing prices. And one of the things that has been happening in the housing market, unfortunately, is speculative activities, but also the issue of some people would want to own more than one property to rent it out and so forth. So that has really kept first-time buyers out of the market, and therefore with LTVs, that will curtail some of those activities.
By law, banking institutions will be expected to implement the rule as part of their lending policies and procedures. The rule only applies to residential property and not to commercial properties. For Business Today, Franklin Muningirwa, Windhoek.